I've been a retailer for over 47 years. So you've got to figure out how to make your business work. And it's pretty simple stuff, and it's my philosophy in life as well. You got to work hard to achieve whatever your goal is. Making excuses, oh, well, there's not enough people, oh, the opposition are too difficult. I can't find the right people to help me be successful. You got to accept accountability for what you do and then take purposeful actions. And when you do that, you'll get a result. And mostly if you take a positive action and keep pushing and persevering and show resilience, as Winston Churchill said, never, never, never give up.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Ways to Wealth. Today I am joined by Brett. Brett, why don't you give us the too long didn't read about who you are and what got you to sitting here with me in a podcast?
Well, kia ora, and thanks very much for having me in to share my story with you. But I've been a retailer for over 47 years.
Yeah.
And I started off in the supermarket industry, and I'm a butcher by trade.
Oh, nice.
And I ended up spending 42 years with Progressive Enterprises that then morphed into Woolworths New Zealand.
Right.
So originally with Foodtown Supermarkets, and I was a butcher by trade. So I left school at 14 to become a butcher.
Oh, yeah.
And well, end of the fourth form actually, and then started in the fifth form. At 15.
Yeah.
So I ended up being part of the senior executive team for 18 years.
Right.
And my last role when I retired in 2020 was as the general manager of store operations, so all the stores in New Zealand, plus the supply chain.
Right.
And since I've been retired, I suppose I wrote a book.
Yeah.
And shared my story about my journey in life and about the lessons that I learnt in life. And as a result of that, I decided that I'd continue to share, because one of the goals that I have inside my own personal plan is to give back. And so I decided to start a business. It's called My Purpose Ltd. And it's about helping people to learn how to put together a life plan so they can be the best they can be.
Nice. Yeah, that's pretty aligned with what we do as well. That's really cool.
Nice.
So that's quite interesting, because your journey was really kind of driven by grassroots in the first instance, you know, kind of a trade and apprenticeships of sorts. I started actually as a goldsmith as well. So
there you go.
I get that kind of trade kind of start, and it's actually really helpful to get that hands-on experience and being at the ground floor. It gives you a bit of sense of reality, I think, and a good grounding. And you often end up with someone that you're working under that's like helpful in life and in work. I found, at least when I was learning as an apprentice. Yeah,
well, the reality is I come from a low to medium socio-demographic of Mount Orewa in South Auckland. And I come from a pretty dysfunctional family. And the reason I left school at the end of the fourth form really was that I wanted to get out of the environment I had at home, and it wasn't a good family environment. I had a dysfunctional family. My father and mother were married multiple times. And my father said, you can't leave school unless you get a trade or you join the army.
Right.
And I couldn't join the army because I was too young. You had to be 16, and I wasn't waiting another year.
Right.
So I got a job as an apprentice butcher. Best decision I ever made.
Yeah.
Not only did it pay well, but it provided an amazing opportunity to work extra hard, and you get rewarded for it.
Yeah.
And I found out pretty early that if you do things that people want, you can get more. You can get paid for it and more money for it. So I created a really good work ethic to save and get ahead, both in career and in my personal life, to enable me to create my own environment away from the one I wanted to break free from.
Yep. Yeah. So our stories are very similar. It's really interesting. Apart from I moved across the world to do it.
Well, there you go.
But it's wherever you can just move your environment, right? Moving your physical environment, even if it's 10 minutes up the road or 10 hours on a plane, it shifts your thinking. It unlocks a lot of the shackles that you may have attached to your upbringing or circumstance, right? And that kind of shift of getting out of the status quo can be a great unlock. So then you go through and you actually have I wouldn't call it corporate, but you were in an established business that would have had quite interesting operational challenges and was a larger beast than apprentice butcher. Yeah,
well, working for the supermarket, in particular in Foodtown supermarkets in the 80s, who were pretty dominant here in Auckland, they had a very structured program to develop young leaders.
Right.
And I benefited from that program because I got selected to go on their leadership courses. And that helped me advance into the management ranks at a very young age. So I ended up running the meat department in those days, was a very large meat department with over 30 people working in them.
Yeah.
So they were big units. But I did that at 19. Right. So I was a meat manager in charge. And I got myself a career in the office. I moved into the buying office and learned all about merchandising and strategy and so on. But I left in the late 80s due to ownership change of Progressive Enterprises. And I didn't like the new owners.
Right.
I didn't believe in their values and felt disappointed. So just like you mentioned, when you feel that way, you need to change that.
Right.
And you've got to take steps. Otherwise, you're trapped. You become a prisoner. You can become a prisoner in your family environment, and a lot of people do. They get trapped. There's no way out.
Prisoners of circumstance.
That's correct. In mental state.
Right.
And you can do that in your work environment. So if you don't like where you work, I always say, if you don't like what you do, then go and find something that you do like. Don't be constrained. And so I left, and I ended up going into business for myself and creating a butcher shop, a retail meat environment, which I had for 5 years. But circumstances changed, and the company sold again, and some of the original leaders recruited me back.
Okay.
So that's how come I went back. I went back after 5 years of my own business, spent 27 years there afterwards. Yeah.
And what was in the 5 years that you did in the butchery?
Yeah.
What were some of the biggest lessons that you learned then?
Oh, you can't pay the bank manager with sausages.
True.
So you got to figure out how to make your business work.
Yeah.
And it's pretty simple stuff, and it's my philosophy in life as well. You got to work hard to achieve whatever your goal is.
Yeah.
You can't just start making excuses. Oh, well, there's not enough people. Or the opposition are too difficult. Or I can't find the right people to help me be successful. You got to accept accountability for what you do, and then take purposeful actions. And when you do that, you'll get a result. And mostly if you take a positive action and keep pushing and persevering and show resilience, and as Winston Churchill said, never, never, never give up, then you most likely succeed.
Yeah.
Most likely. So that was the big lesson for me. We started off small and ended up at a very good business that I managed to sell within a week by putting it on sale.
Nice.
And so I went back to the corporate environment and took the lessons I learned from my own business and applied it back into the corporate business. Yeah.
And that would have been quite opportunistic then to basically have them shoulder tap you, and then you'd be able to get liquidity from your business quite quickly.
Yes.
It must have given you a nice little boost.
Oh, significant boost. But, it's fair to say too, the only reason I could leave that business in the 80s was because I'd already established enough net worth to do that.
Right.
Yes, I had to take a business loan, but it was only half of what it cost me to set the business up.
Right.
And, if I hadn't have started with that equity, I would have been in trouble. But I built that, and I had a plan to build that. And so it all kind of worked out. Yes, coming out the other side with even more equity is a great outcome.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And going back the second time, I think the most important thing I learned was how to get people to believe in the business purpose.
Right.
And if you can do that, you can achieve en masse.
Is that in the butcher or in the next when you went back? When you went back. So
but I learned that in the butchery.
Right.
So if you can get people to believe in what you do and actually be a volunteer to your business, they turn up every day and give it everything. They give you discretionary effort.
Yeah. Yeah, we're finding
that makes a big difference.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. Especially, we see that day in, day out from our team. We're very lucky.
Yeah.
And it's because we've actually empowered them with ownership.
100%. If you can give people a stakeholding in your business and reward them and share in some of the rewards, you actually get that owner's mentality dispersed at lower levels.
Absolutely.
You get that. You've got a very powerful and positive environment.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's about, what can you actually realistically influence?
Yes.
And I would rather profoundly help 9 people in our business that are all become equity owners and can have a non-linear outcome.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to spread myself too thin and say, I'm going to help 1,000 people. Because I may not have a plan to do that, to execute it.
Well, I've always had a philosophy as a leader and I suppose, owner in business. Pay less people more than more people less.
Yeah, right.
So find a way to get the best and productivity out of people. Yeah. So, and you do that by creating that volunteer mentality and ownership mentality.
Yeah.
And when you do that, they work to their max and probably pass what you would call a normal max.
Yeah.
And that enables you to reward them. But the idea is not to have people that are mediocre maybe in performance and productivity and you just pay them a normal rate or just above a normal rate. So, yeah. Pay less people more.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the way.
So it's like 4 stages. Interestingly, they align quite nicely to what we've got a persona, I guess, in our business. And we kind of think about it in stages.
Yep.
Spring, summer, autumn, winter.
Yep.
And your kind of career journey has been similar in that.
Yes.
In that you started off in spring learning a lot.
Yes.
Then you went out and took some risk and it was summer, so you had to go and do something. And then in autumn, you kind of took that advantage and you ran with it. And now in winter, you're just kind of living for your purpose and still having a profound impact.
Absolutely. That's how I see it. I suppose the way I put that is that you reap the benefits of the seeds you sow. And so if you sow a whole lot of positive seeds, then you can harvest them at some point in time. And then you can disperse them. Yeah. You can disperse the harvest amongst others. And, look, I'm in that stage in my career or my life where, my kind of purpose is about helping others to be the best people they can be.
Yeah.
When I was young, it was all about how do I become the best person I can be.
Right. Yeah.
And how do I get my family to be the best family environment I can.
Well, and that's because you won't be able to do that latter bit if you don't do that first.
No, but, I've got 3 beautiful grandchildren now.
Nice.
And, I'm able to be there more for them than I was for my own children.
Right.
And I suppose that is reaping the benefits.
Yeah.
You see, because I created that environment and I believe I created an environment that was positive for my family.
Yeah.
And they are doing the same. And so when you talk about that intergenerational...
That's compounding now.
Yeah, compounding. So, I used to say to my daughters when they were in their teenage years that my oldest daughter's going to be 40 and my youngest daughter's 38. But I used to say to them, I hope that you're better than I ever was. And that's my hope. I hope you can do better and be more successful than me because that is what I see the meaning of life is. And if all of us can help somebody else to be better than you and have a better environment, keep that positive environment going forward, then where's the world in the future? It's got to be in a great space.
Yep.
And so that's how I see things, and that's what we work to.
Yeah, and just, I guess taking a step back, a little bit of a tangent, not too much, but what point did you know that it wasn't right when you were younger? Was there an age or a moment where you're like, this is just, I need to move now? Like, I need to get out of the situation? And
yeah. Well, so my father was pretty abusive, mentally and physically.
Yeah.
And so I just made a decision. I was spending all my time at my mate's place.
Yeah.
They had a nice environment. So,
yeah.
And I figured out that the environment I was in wasn't normal.
Right.
It's not normal.
Yeah.
There's more positive. So I made a decision right then and then I had to get out.
Yeah.
And I was doing anything to do that.
Yeah.
And I knew I had to go out and find a trade and get established. But right then I knew I had to have a plan. And so you work on a plan. And I suppose in my mid-20s part, I kind of formalised that more, because I think most people have goals and aspirations, but they keep them in their head. And I was pretty much like that. But I read a book in my 20s. Yeah. It was a book called Success by Glenn Bland.
Okay.
And it's about how to put a personal life plan together. Right. So I structured a plan up. Yeah. I put it together and applied some learnings that I got from leadership training. Yeah. So I don't know whether you've ever heard of psycho-cybernetics. Have you heard of it?
No.
So psycho-cybernetics is the power of the mind.
Okay.
And understanding that if you can use your mind to achieve things. And, there's a lot of hype around this and people get, Tony Robbins type stuff and get all hyped up about it. But the fact remains that the brain will focus on things that you believe in. So you have to create beliefs. To create beliefs, you've got to embed them in your subconscious mind. Yeah.
Because it's solving the problem for you while you're not realising it.
Yeah. It's like a GPS, really, psycho-cybernetics. It's like, it kind of steers you. It's like a helmsman steering a ship to port, and you can get steered off port, and the GPS will recorrect you. Your self-belief will recorrect you. So when you go off course, it goes, no, that's not the right thing, come back. Come back to the goal, and keeps moving and so on like that. So you create that belief in your mind by creating habits and positive thoughts, affirmations, meditation, all that type of thing. And if you believe in it, you can achieve it. So I applied that, and that got me really going. And I'd already, by that time in my 20s, because I started full-time work at 15, I bought my first house at 25. I got married at 22. I've been with my wife 47 years. Nice. So I had my first house and my first daughter when I was 25. But once I got that, I decided, well, what else is there? Yes, I've got a house. Right.
You've kind of undone what you wanted to undo by that point, right? Because what you've done ultimately is found a life partner,
100%,
created a home environment that was safe, and then obviously had your first child. So you've kind of done that.
Yeah, but then what's next?
Exactly. You have to then refocus. Yeah. Because your 14-year-old or 13-year-old self that's probably as far as you could. And I remember that very clearly.
100%.
As well, because similarly, I got married at 21.
There you go.
And we moved to New Zealand the day after we got married.
Wow.
And now we have 3 kids and a dog, and we've been here 12 years.
Awesome.
Very, the whole motivation for me until, once I guess I found out we were going to have our son, because that wasn't planned for us.
No.
But that was my whole head was around, how do I have a life or a family? Like, how do I create a life that I wanted when I was young, that I wanted to be in? And I wanted to actually dive a little deeper into how did that impact your ability? And I kind of get a sense, I know what your answer will be, but to build strong relationships with people that weren't your family, with your friends and their parents perhaps, and building influence in those kind of constructs?
Well, I kind of have there's 3 philosophies in life, right? Well, 3 lessons I've learnt in life that have helped guide me. And the first lesson is find love. Mm-hmm. You need to have somebody to love and somebody to love you. Mm-hmm. So find somebody. Mm-hmm. And it's powerful when 2 of you work together. So that's pretty powerful. Mm-hmm. And so that spreads out and you create other people because they have a circle of people that you meet. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so that helps you get away from that environment because you start, engaging with them. The second key lesson I learned was find work. Right. Go to work. Yeah. And at work, if you work hard and come with the right attitude and listen and be inquisitive, people will mentor you. Yeah. And as a very young person, there's always somebody who wants to mentor you. So you learn so much. I've learned so much from other people, leaders, managers, just associates, peers within the business environment that have helped me grow as a person, but also taught me so many key lessons in leadership and business, but also in life. And the third most important lesson is grow the mind. So you've got to spend time being inquisitive. You've got to read more. You've got to research more. You've got to talk more with people. You've got to listen more. And when you do that and you grow your mind, opportunities open up. And they open up because you come up with what the future is going to be for you. Mm-hmm. You decide. See, I don't accept this kind of excuse that we can't get a house, we can't get ahead, we can't break out of an environment. There is no such word as can't in my view. Mm-hmm. It's I won't or I don't want. And you choose that because you can if you really want. It's just what are you prepared to do to get it? Yeah. And, I said to my daughters, both my daughters bought houses, their first houses in their 30s. Yeah. And, people say you can't buy a house, it's too hard. Well, I read an article just recently with 2 19-year-olds in Christchurch who bought their house. Mm-hmm. You can go out and do it, but what are you prepared to do it? The trouble is there's a lot of people, and this is what I talk especially to students that I help coach in life planning, is I talk about this need for instant gratification in today's society. Yep. Well, I've got to have everything. I've got to have a new phone. I've got to have a new clothes. I've got to have the cocktail in the bar. I've got to have the holiday. I've got to have all that. But if you're willing to make some commitments, not necessarily sacrifices, I say they're commitments, commitments to staying on path, being focused to achieve a goal, you'll get it. You can get a house, no problem at all in this environment. If you put a plan together and stick to that plan and then modify that plan as your environment changes and your circumstances change, you'll get one. Where you get your first house is also a bit of an issue because you're not going to get your first house in Remuera unless you come from money. Someone else is going to help you. Yeah. But you're going to get a house. It's where you choose to live and what are you prepared to do to get one. Yep. And so, I suppose that's kind of where I've and I've brought that through in my life, my personal environment. I suppose really what happened to me is I was kind of at work and it was in my last 10 years before I retired, in my senior roles, people used to say to me, how come you're so positive and you're you're not stressed. You're resilient, right? How does that happen? And I go, well, I have a view. My view is that work's got to fit into my life plan, not my life fitting into my work plan.
Yeah.
And so if I've got a very clear view of where I'm going and I know what I'm doing and how I can get there, then I'm not stressed. Because I actually got myself into a position where I didn't need to come to work for the money. Mm-hmm. I came to work because I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the opportunity. And that got me really thinking, if work for me, why couldn't it work for others? Mm-hmm. And so I started to run this internal course inside the group with our senior leaders on how to put a personal life plan together. Because if you put a plan together, it includes a financial plan.
Yeah, for sure.
Then you feel good outside of work and you know where you're going. You'll be more resilient and buoyant and self-confident in your life. Yeah. And if you can do that in your personal life, then when you come to work, you can work to the business purpose because you're already working through your own personal purpose. Yeah. And you find that, as I said, you become volunteers. And all of a sudden, people started to engage and move forward and work together, and you achieve a lot more. So that's kind of where that all come from. But shivers, that took me, I spent 25 years being selfish.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was my personal advantage. Mm-hmm. And it's not until you kind of finally realise that maybe there's a greater purpose in life than just looking after yourself and your family.
Right.
There's others.
Yeah. Oh, cool. And then how long has that been going now?
I've been, we're coming up into the 4th year now.
Okay.
Yeah. So I do that with corporates. So I run programs, leadership coaching.
Right.
And also how to change an environment, how to create the right environment.
Yeah.
But my passion really is around the students.
Oh, okay.
So year 13 and 12.
Yeah.
And helping them get together to put a life plan together. Right. So put a course together to help them understand about how they can create a purpose for themselves, set goals and objectives and action plans to achieve their goals. Mm. And provided an electronic platform to do it in. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Part of that includes a program I call Money Matters.
Okay.
Which is basically the ability to create your own personal budget, but in a different way than they taught you at school, or they definitely taught me at school.
Yeah.
So, and getting people to understand, in my view, that money does really matter. Mm. Because society doesn't let many of us say that. Mm. Because, also too depends culturally which country you come from.
Right.
But New Zealanders are pretty humble, I suppose, and tall poppy syndrome, like to cut people down.
Totally.
But, money does matter. Mm. And if you can get people to believe in that, and then how you can earn and how you spend it, and how you can accumulate it is a very powerful tool.
Totally. I definitely believe in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. And so, it's been going 4 years.
Yep.
When it hits a decade and you've done it, it's been going for 10 years, what's the success? What's the ideal state?
Well,
what do you think about?
What I think about is how do we get it to all kids?
Right.
So I've applied to the education minister and the government to get it part of the curriculum.
Right.
But there's bigger fish to fry. You've got to learn English and maths at the moment.
Right. Totally.
But I'd be really keen to, because there isn't a specific program inside the education curriculum at the moment that focuses on life planning, how to put a life plan. And my process for putting a life plan together is very much based on business process, because that's where I learned it.
Yep. Yeah.
So if you've got a business, you have to have a plan, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you don't get a loan for your business if you need one, or capital for your business if you need one, unless you've got other investors. But even then, they'll want to know your plan.
They'll want to know what you want to do.
And so I kind of figured out that, I mean, really I got in the last 18 years of my corporate career, that's all I did, was develop strategies to deliver on purpose, and how to put a business plan together, and objectives, action plans, and so on.
Yep.
So structurally, if you teach that to people about how that works, then it becomes a possibility for them to achieve it, because that's what happens in business. Yeah. But you have to be structured, and that's actually what we try and do. We try and help people understand the structure that's required to achieve a goal through objectives and action plans. And I'd love to see that made available at a young age. Yeah. Because even for myself, you know, when I thought about it, I didn't really pick it up until my mid-20s, and that was because I was fortunate to be in those leadership courses. And some people never get that opportunity. Yeah. Depending on which environment they get put into, you know. Totally. Not everyone works for a large
corporate that's actually that
has that money.
Development,
So I'd love to see the younger generation having the ability to understand that they can achieve anything they want, really, within reason. You know, if they set that and they go through the proper processes, they can achieve it.
I think there's a few misconceptions around it as well, right? Around planning and around wealth and around planning personally. I think that too many people don't realize that the same plan you'd have for a business applies to an individual household or
100%.
A government. Because guess what? You have your own personal balance sheet, you have your own personal cash flows, you have your own personal liabilities and obligations you need to uphold.
100%.
So why would we do it differently personally or at the government level than what the best businesses do, right? So, and then the second one piece I would say is that, you know, people often have the wrong expectation around goals and planning, because it's not about necessarily the plan going to exactly what you thought it would, because it's not going to. You know, if I think about it from an investor perspective, if I'm trying to present my business for investment, the investor is mainly looking at how am I thinking about the problem, and how have I thought through the different steps that I'm going to need to take. Because obviously it's going to, you know, not go to the spreadsheet.
Yes.
But how did you think about getting that spreadsheet together?
Yes.
And it's the same thing with a personal plan.
Exactly right. I mean, there's, the rigor that you put into a business plan means that every year you'll be setting new part of a 5-year strategic plan. And every year you're setting new objectives. You might not be setting new goals, but you'll set new objectives to achieve the goals.
For sure.
And that's your point. If you off track, you then redirect with a new objective for how to get back to that goal that you're looking for. Yeah. And then action plans follow underneath that. I spent 50 to 60 hours a week in corporate world doing that. And then I was doing my own personal planning. And then I went, well, why isn't everyone doing a personal plan? Why aren't you spending as much time? Why don't we spend, you know, I'm not talking 60 hours, but why aren't you spending at least twice a year looking at what you believe your current purpose is? And that's another important point. And you brought it up early, is that your purpose when you're 14 or 15 is different from when you're 25, is different from when you're 60.
Yep.
And it can change as your environment changes as well. And so people have this misconception that you've got to find a divine purpose. It's not. It's really just the ability to be able to focus on something that you want to achieve. And then you can reset that, and you reset goals and you reset objectives underneath it. And just like a business has to morph as the environment changes around them, so does your personal life plan has to morph as your environment changes around you. And you reapply it, and you apply rigor to it. So you give yourself a performance appraisal. You give yourself a reward if you've achieved your goals, especially some of your financial goals. treat yourself to a new car, new clothes, dinner out, because you can. All right. So it's just really important that people kind of understand that power of that. And I'm very passionate about wanting our young people to have that opportunity.
Totally.
And so, that's where we'll put my focus in the up and coming years.
Basically, getting it to more people at a younger age, so that planning and that discipline and habits can basically compound for longer.
Yeah, you can't keep blaming and complaining. I think we've got. If I'm critical of society and the media, and some of the the stuff we read and hear is about how difficult life is.
Yeah,
and there's always challenges in life. It doesn't matter where you come from, where you are. Your response to the challenge determines your outcome. If you've had a negative response to a situation, you'll continue to have negative outcomes.
Yeah.
You take that circuit breaker and put a positive response, and all of a sudden you'll start creating the opportunity. And that's the thing we need to talk more about. It's not everything's too expensive, or the people aren't doing enough. What are you doing about it?
Yeah, and totally.
What are you doing personally?
And I think that's I often think I'm a big believer in thinking from first principles.
Yes.
So what do I know to be true, and what do I know that I can prove to be true, or know, and then how do I work back from there? And I think a lot of people want to talk in analogies, because they hear something for 5 seconds, and I blame a lot of this on look at where politics has gone, and who would have thunk? Do you think Churchill would have thought that X amount of years later, every single time a government official talks, they're trying to find clickbait and some 5 seconds sentence that's going to get them virality on social media?
Yes.
So they're not talking from a real deep understanding. They're talking from a sense of, oh, well, if I put these string of words together, I'm going to get 7,000 views and outrage 1,500 people.
Yes.
And it's this whole analogy thinking, which I think is the real damage to society. Is basically we're skipping learning deeply about something and just being like, well, it's easier and more convenient for me to have this view because I heard it and it sounds like a zinger.
Yeah, and it's an excuse for what I don't have to do, or the effort I have to put in to achieve the reverse.
Yeah,
and that's how I see it. I just think that we have an opportunity, each one of us individually, to make a difference and to take a more positive view on life and take action to achieve it. Those people that choose not to, in my view, are the victims. And we have a tendency to, I suppose, give the victims space. Ammunition to be victims and continue to be victims.
Yeah.
Whereas we can change that. And, we all got a part to play with inside our own social environments.
Yeah.
Our family, our community, and the wider organisation, depending on how far you want to go. But we all have that opportunity.
I think it's also, you see a lot of things, you see a lot of flashy things online especially, and that's what a lot of the young kids see, is they see, oh, well, this person is some fancy car or some fancy jewellery or living a great life, and everything they post is beautiful and perfect. And, at the end of the day, we all start at a different starting line.
Yes.
And and the success is relative.
Yes.
You can be running 10,000 miles and the other person started 10,000 miles ahead of you and they only ran 500 meters.
Correct. So
I think we get too caught up in these absolutes and these kind of picture perfect outcomes.
Yes.
And that becomes a limiting belief for us.
Well, you have to be comfortable with who you are, and you have to understand who you want to be.
Yeah.
And all of us have some limitations, because I believe people can be better every day if they choose to be, through this whole thing of learning and growing the mind. But I think you have to be happy with who you are. And I suppose that when you talk about people that are perceived to be successful, you don't understand their journey a lot of the time, especially in the social media environment. It's just a quick post here. You don't understand what's in behind it. You don't understand whether it's real or not. You don't understand what they've done to get there. And that's the problem you have with the tall poppy syndrome too, as well. That it takes a lot of sacrifice to get to a position where you may be considered successful. And you've as I said before, you've got to be resilient. You've got to be disciplined. And you've got to be focused. And I just think that people in general want to do good, but sometimes they're misled, and quick to be misled by others who want to hold you back because they don't have what they want. And that's what worries me in society, both from a friendship in your community, your social community, but also now it looks like it's spreading to the wider media.
Yeah, and sometimes it's better to just disconnect from those.
100%.
Right, where you can.
Well, where you can. Sometimes not possible, but I mean, you still want to learn about what's going on around the world, so you still need the media.
You need to know something, but you need to, maybe. I know that's hard. We all deal with these things, having to be disciplined around how much we consume, or how we let it affect our moods.
Yes,
and our perspectives. So, if you were to give, I'm seventh form. I'm now thinking about my plan. What's the 3 things that you would get someone to do when they're now starting to think about that, and they want to change their circumstance? They know that it's not going to be overnight, but they want to have a good crack at it, and they want to set themselves up with a nice foundation. What are the 3 things?
Well, the first thing is I want people to think about who they are now, who they believe they are, and who they want to be.
Right.
So who do you really aspire to be? So, and you get people to understand they can be better.
Right.
So that's the first thing. So to get them to believe in themselves and to believe that they can create that for themselves and not have to wait for others.
Yeah.
So that's the second thing I do is make a start. You gotta put it down on paper. You've got to develop a plan, and it doesn't have to be on paper. I mean, we've got an electronic model that enables them to do that, but they've got to be able to figure out what they want and make sure they're very crystal clear on where they're going and how they're going to get there, and what they need to get there. And the third most important thing is to make sure that they stay focused and they're prepared to do what it takes to achieve the goal. And a lot of people give up. I call it the New Year's Eve method.
Okay.
So you make a New Year's Eve resolution.
Right.
I'm going to lose weight.
Okay.
I'm going to stop drinking. But you don't, because you actually haven't done anything about it. It's just a thought. It's just a statement.
Yeah.
And until you actually believe you need to lose weight and you are prepared to do what it takes to lose weight, then you won't do it. And so you've got to stay committed to it. So once you start, it hurts. Breaking a habit, an old habit, a bad habit, is a proven fact that it can take like 60 to 70 times before it starts to become at least normal. So you can't go to the gym one day and go, hey, I'm going to be fit and healthy. You've got to go. You've got to go for
there's
months.
Too much focus on destination.
Exactly. And then you've got to be, but And I suppose there's a fourth one for me too as well, which I think is really important.
Okay.
And that is to make sure that you forgive yourself. Because you're not going to achieve everything you want straight away.
Yeah.
And you're going to fall off the track. And you may not achieve that goal exactly when you want. But if you can forgive yourself and give yourself another opportunity to reset and refocus, you'll get back on. It's that psycho-cybernetics, that GPS that navigates you back.
Yeah. And you have these pathways that were maybe pre-programmed before you even knew, that are also kind of like that natural drift, that tide, that rip that's kind of slightly taking you off track, right?
That's right.
And you have to constantly, that's the whole thing about being focused, is actually the focus is so that when you drift, you realize sooner rather than later that you've drifted.
It's the same in leadership, right? If you have people that aren't achieving the business goals and objectives, if they slowly start to drift off, if you wait too long, by the time it gets to point critical, it's a hard task to bring them back. But if you can get them just before they get off, as they get off course, the numbers start to slip a little bit, bang, 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 get them back focused, up they come.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. So you have to apply the same rigor to your personal life as you do to that business life.
Totally.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really enjoyed the conversation, Brett.
Yeah, I enjoyed sharing it with you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and love to have you on again.